I think it's pretty fair to say that in the years of the 60s, 70s and 80s, we lived in a country where it was a land of plenty. And I'm not saying for one second that we live badly in South Africa, but we've had to tighten our belt significantly for various different reasons, economic, political, etc., etc. But the point is that South African horse racing has lost many racecourses. We've lost Gosforth Park and Newmarket here in the Highveld. We've lost Bloemfontein in the Free State. We've lost Clarewood Park in KwaZulu-Natal and Arlington in the Eastern Cape. Let's not forget about Milderton either in the Western Cape, which is now a training facility. But the one racecourse that, in my humble opinion, is the most beautiful racecourse of the lot is Durbanville. But it wasn't always that horse-friendly. It was quite undulating and quite ribby and very tight turns, and the draw was very important. And there's been an enormous amount of work that has transpired at Durbanville to change the trajectory of the turn, to change the smoothness of the track. And I must admit, when I went there in January at the instruction of Clyde Basil, I was rather pessimistic about whether the job would actually get done in time to race in September. But they did race, and the track is looking absolutely magnificent. I've had a chance to speak to Anton, who of course rode Empress Club at Durbanville and still holds the track record. I also spoke to Anthony Delpech, who rode a very nice horse the other day for Dean Kannemeyer called Cape Winter. I've also spoken to Bernard Faydurb, one of the doyens of South African horse racing, one of the most dedicated men, MJ Baileyveld, Piet Botha. I could have spoken to so many more, but we simply ran out of time. So with the palm trees behind me, let's go and catch up with the action at Durbanville on the most important day of their calendar year. And that, of course, was the reopening, the official reopening, proudly sponsored by World Sports Betting, cracking colts, cracking fillies, and a really exciting day's racing at Durbanville. Anton, I was chatting to Tony Millard in Hong Kong the other day about one of the most incredible performances that we've ever seen at Durbanville, the old Durbanville Empress Club. I'm sure you remember it fondly.
I do. As a matter of fact, like it was yesterday, Andrew. She took on Mary Gallant at Taban. I'm open to correction, but she may have given them weight. Mary Gallant would probably have been the equivalent, if not better, than Carry On Alice. And Taban at the time, he was just the best male weight for age or so of any sprint, you know. She gave them weight and she gave them a hiding. Actually beating the course, breaking the course record. So it was, yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
They being followed by Empress Club, now starting to move closer. Guilty's up on the outside, then Brain Teaser and Deep Down. They come towards the 300 Marigoland, continuing to run to Ban. Coming home strongly up on the outside, and Empress Club's also starting to improve down the inside. 150 out, Marigoland is digging in and staying in front, but Empress Club trying to close him down the inside. Marigoland, but Empress Club's coming visible, and Empress Club comes through.
This whole track has now done full circle, some very significant improvements. You've ridden here, you've won the feature race today. What's your take on the track today, Anton?
It race is pretty similar to what it was before, but the big difference is the straight. You know, it was undulating before. I believe the inside was advantageous, whereas I know you've seen today they can win, you know, right across the course. So it's just fantastic. It makes it fair and it's good for racing.
Camber, when you come out, doesn't throw you out? Is it far more fair for the horse's attacking ability?
Oh, you know, I had the one marble, so it was pretty straightforward for me on a horse that knew exactly what to do, you know. So I never had any issues, and I don't think too many horses will have too many issues getting around this turn.
Okay, and finally, it won't be the first or the last curveball you ever answer, but looking forward to the Cape Sizzling summer season, have you seen anything today that might be a horse to earmark for the Cape season?
Well, you've got to think that Candice Bass's filly that won, you know, under those conditions, I thought she was pretty impressive. I don't really follow the Cape form, but if I had to stick my neck out on a performance to date, I mean, we only had race 6 on tree. Yeah. But to date, definitely Candice Bass's filly.
The race in which you ran in with Table Bay and Our Mate Art, anything there, anything substantial there?
Well, you'd have to be impressed with Gold Standard's comeback run. You know, he's going to be one of the horses to beat, probably in the weight for age races, namely the Green Point, the Queen's Plate and the Met. So he'd probably be a standout horse, but I've got to say that Our Mate Art's definitely improved from last year.
It's quite a miracle, really, when you consider that, you know, the plan to grow the grass and the shortage of rain that you've got in this part of the world. I think they've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, Andrew, look, I mean, just obviously racing, and there was a rush to obviously come race here with Kenilworth taking a lot of punishment, and if we had another 3 months, I think this track would be in a fantastic nick, and if we had a proper winter, it probably wouldn't have been finished, but it would have helped the grass grow. So we're racing a couple of more meetings, and when it has a break, Dean and them are going to do another spring treatment, I believe, and once that goes on and we get a bit of rain, unfortunately we're going in our dry season, but I think next year this time this track will be magnificent.
Horses won down the inside, I won the race down the middle, and 2 other jockeys also won down the middle, so you can win anywhere, which is really fantastic because it gives everyone a fair chance, and that's what it's all about. But as long as everyone's got a fair chance, and that's what's so nice about this track now. Anyone can win.
No more undulations?
No more undulations. Beautiful turn. They really put in the effort. It was a bit firm, and they're loosening it up a little bit. I mean, for a brand new track, I think everyone needs a huge applauding. They've done a real fantastic job.
Last winter is hooked deep for his run, and he starts to make good ground. Back towards their inside is Captain Curtius, who makes a little progress. Last winter comes forward to pick it up now as they come down to the final 300. Ollivander and Mambo Mime are in behind that. It's Last Winter out in front, and Last Winter showing his class. He's too good here. Despite top weight, he powers away from Ollivander.
Obviously, you'd think to yourself that a man as professional as Dean Canamay would never bring an inverted commas top horse to a track that he didn't think was user-friendly.
Yeah, obviously. The track before was very bumpy. I have never ridden on it, but the guys spoke, was very bumpy and very biased. And obviously with them doing the track up now, it's very even and very fair. You can win from anywhere, and up the straight you can come anywhere. So the trainers I'm sure will be running their good horses there now, because obviously the track being even and fair, and it's good for racing. So you're obviously going to have the more quality horses coming to race there.
Piet, having won the last race in scintillating fashion, you've been riding for so many years, particularly at Kenilworth and Durbanville and even Milnerton days. What has the change to this track done as far as the rideability of it is concerned?
I think the biggest thing for me is that it's a very fair course. At the moment it's nice and flat, so you don't have to worry too much about running those horses with problems here that they're going to pull up short afterwards. You can pretty much come from anywhere, really. Before, you know, you really needed to have a good draw. Now you can get away with a bit of a bad draw. It's a fair course at the moment.
What's the camber like?
The camber's quite nice. Coming into that turn, before, when you have to try and pull them into the turn, they sort of just fall into the turn now. So it really has made a big difference.
They're off.